Well, hello everyone, and welcome here to FNL Gridiron, presented by Beals Insurance, here on Friday Night Lights, New Hampshire. Nick and Astor, Steve Beals with you, Halloween edition. Happy Halloween to all of our trick-or-treaters out there. And of course, Week 9 is the final regular season week statewide. So a lot to talk about. Well, we've got a couple of tournaments perhaps to break down as the playoff picture begins to materialize with a week to go. And of course, we're going to preview Friday Night Light Hampshire Game of the Week presented by Beals Insurance, which comes your way tomorrow night between Londonderry and Exeter. Both head coaches will join us. Bill Ball at the bottom of the hour, longtime Exeter head coach, and Jimmy Lozon, who's not only the Londonderry head coach, but also the athletic director. He joins us at 6:45, and getting us started in about 10 minutes or so at 6:15 is our old friend Jay Pineno of the Seacoast Media Group. He returns to the show tonight. So we have Jay Pineno, Bill Ball, Jimmy Lozon in that order. Coming up, we'll take a look at the power poll. We've got the Division I and D2 standings to go over as well. So, Steve, a lot to get to here as we head down the stretch in the final regular season weekend coming up tomorrow night.
Yeah, well, I mean, this game coming up Friday night's a good, even though we don't have a game Saturday, Nick, obviously this Friday night game's good for a double shot because we've been waiting. This has been on the screen. You could see this thing coming 4, 5, even 6 weeks ago. You could just tell the quality of these teams, the way they were playing, how they did against their opponents. Great game with Exeter against Memorial really tested them, and Exeter's strength just finished out at the end. Take nothing away from Memorial. Londonderry on the other side, big win against Pinkerton earlier in the year. Tough one against Pinkerton, but have pretty much. If you look at the St. John's game, I know the spread is what it is, but St. John's is one of the best teams in New England. And, they played competitively throughout that game and stood up to one of the top teams in the Northeast as far as high school football is concerned. This is, I don't know what you just said, but say again. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, they beat Wyndham as well in a tough game. One of the things Londonderry, Nick, has is they start a little slow in some games, but then we saw that with Concord earlier in the year. We saw it with Wyndham, but then all of a sudden the Londonderry Lancer machine kicks in, and they've done very well. I did hear through the grapevine that there potentially was a quarterback injury. I don't know the full extent of that. I wasn't able to get it. Hopefully, Coach Lozon will fill us in with that tonight. But this is a matchup just kind of like the mirror game of Bedford and Pinkerton, Nick. That has that same feel going in that you really believe you're going to see the battle of the iron of the league, those 4 teams. This is the one that kind of finishes that as far as I'm concerned. So looking forward to it a lot, calling it with you.
Yeah. That game kicks off tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Our coverage begins at 6:45 here on Friday Night Lights, New Hampshire. And again, both head coaches joining us tonight on the program. All right, let's take a look at these Division I standings because that game tomorrow night is going to have an impact no matter who wins. The situation, as we know, in Division I looks like this. It's a 13-team field. 3 conference winners. Those are your top 3 seeds. Those 3 teams will have a bye in the preliminary rounds. You can pencil those top 3 teams into the quarterfinals. The other 10 will face each other in a one-and-done situation. So as of right now, and again, the seeding are based on the rating. And you can find that on the NHIAA website, NHIAA.org. It breaks it down pretty well. So as of now, going into tomorrow, the field looks like this. Bedford, your 2-time defending Division I champ, 8-0 in the regular season, 7-0 against in-state opponents. They are right now the top seed. They will look to extend their win streak tomorrow night at Keene at 6:30. More on the Blackbirds in a moment. Exeter, right now in the driver's seat for the number 2 seed. They can finish, of course, as the top seed with some help. But they're 8-0 as well, 7-0 against NHIAA opponents. And, of course, face Londonderry tomorrow in our game of the week. Lancers are right now number 3, and they are in the driver's seat in the Central Division. So a win, they get a bye. A loss, things get a lot more complicated. South right now is the 4 seed. They are the top at-large seed based on the rating, with that 7-1 overall record, 6-1 in conference. Of course, their first and only loss came last week here on Friday Night Lights, New Hampshire at Bedford. So right now, 4 belongs to South. 5, Alvern. They're 6-2. They are at Pinkerton tomorrow, and that game has heavy consequences in the D1 field as well. Right now, Salem holds the 6th spot. It's 6-2. They're 5-2 in conference. They've won 6 in a row after that 0-2 start back in September. They are at home tomorrow against Concord at 7 o'clock. Pinkerton, hard to believe, but if the tournament started today, they would be the 7. Of course, they can move up tomorrow with a win over Alvern. Astros 6-2 overall, 5-2 in state. Memorial, they're 5-3. We saw them in a big blowout win Saturday as they topped Winnicott 37-7 to improve to 5-2 in state. They're taking on Timberlane tomorrow at 6:30. Owls with an outside chance of getting in if they could pull off the road victory. Concord, number 9, they would face Memorial right now in a rematch of Week 6. Concord is 4-4 overall, 4-3 against in-state opposition, and again, they're on the road tomorrow night at Salem. Bishop Girton, they're 5-3 overall. Cardinals 4-3 in state. They had their 4-game win streak snapped last week with a loss against Salem. They look to rebound tomorrow and punch their ticket with a win at Merrimack. That's a 6:30 kick. Wyndham, 3-5 overall, but good enough for the 11th seed as of now. 3-4 in state. They're at Central tomorrow. They'll be favored despite a road game over the Little Green. That game is a 6:30 kick. Number 12, Winnicott, despite the setback, still 4-4, still 4-3 against in-state foes. They are at Dover tomorrow night. A big game out east. 7 o'clock is the kickoff there. And the last seed in D1 right now belongs to Keene. They are 4-4, 3-4 in-state, but again have a tough home game tomorrow night to close out the regular season against Bedford at 6:30. Technically, teams still alive in Division 1. 2 wins apiece for Dover, Timberlane, Merrimack, North, and Goffstown. All those teams need a win and need some outside help. Steve, there's the Division 1 situation, and it seems like there's a lot of games with real repercussions tomorrow night.
Yeah, I mean, that's your goal. When you set up a league structure, you want it to go as deep into the season with as many teams to be able to be still alive going into the last week. After the last week, you have the benefit of 13 teams getting in it, where in a sense that you have a preliminary round, which gives more teams an opportunity to get, quote unquote, a playoff game, albeit quasi playoff game. It still gets them into the dance and into the tournament. And I just think that the powers that be that have put this program together, they tried it with 4 divisions. I think the 3's working much better as far as, and I thought the 4 worked better than what they had before. So it's steady improvement. I got a funny feeling this one's going to stick, Nick, as far as the structure is concerned. There are a couple teams I'd like to call out for different reasons. I think for coaching staffs, when you look at Coach Lee from Alvern and Coach Sturgis from Memorial, both of these guys have done a phenomenal job this year getting these teams competitive. They went right down to the wire with Exeter, that being Memorial. Look at the games that Alvern's had, quote-unquote, upsets. I don't really call them upsets anymore because they have proved with their record how strong a program they are and the progression of both these teams. We saw Memorial last week, Nick, and other than some penalty issues, they looked very, very solid. Their quarterback looks outstanding. Same for Alvern. Jackson, good quarterback. Who knows what's going to happen? But the other team I'd like to call out in the tournament, Nick, is Salem. Salem has beat Pinkerton and earlier in the year. Always look at the one-game situation, but Salem has gone in. They beat Wyndham. They have Salem, to me, has the potential. If they're playing at the top of their game, you could consider them a real. I wouldn't even call it a spoiler. There's just something about this team that it's up to them, if you know what I mean. It's really up to what level of Salem they want to play at. I think Steve Abraham and staff's done a phenomenal job getting this team where they are. If there's one team other than the top 4 you don't want to face, arguably maybe even the top 3, that you don't want to face, Nick, it's you do not want to face Salem in the first round. You may not even want to face them in the second round. Nobody's going to want to play them because they know they have the goods, the coaching, and the drive right now and the progression to just show. I think that they deserve a lot of credit as well. I think Coach Abraham's done a great job as well. So all the other, I mean, Bedford, Exeter, Pinkerton, I'll leave those, in Londonderry. They are obvious going into, they're all playing well going into it, but I just want to call out those three teams and the others as well that all made it. How about Winnicott playing freshmen and a ton of sophomores and a ton of juniors gets in the tournament? Coach Francoeur has got to be pretty happy with the progression of his team. They took a hard one against Memorial, but I think Memorial is just that good this year that was what was just showed their strength. But good for Winnicott. He's got to be pleased that his young guys, if they can win against Dover, that's going to be completed a very, very good season for a very young team. He's got to be excited about the next 2 years in the future.
Let's bring him in. Our first guest tonight here on FNL Gridiron is a friend of the program, Jay Pineno from the Seacoast Media Group, back
like the sun is shining
here in 2024. Jay, good evening. How are you?
Very good. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, let's start with Exeter. You cover basically the Eastern Conference, so we'll touch on some other teams as well, but with the Blue Hawks unbeaten and playing for potentially not only a bye, but a number 2, even a number 1 seed in the cards tomorrow night. Is this one of Bill Ball's better teams in the last few seasons, or is this a team that's perhaps overachieving a bit? What's your take on where Exeter is through 8 games?
No, I think Exeter, this is one of Bill Ball's best teams that I've seen in probably the past decade. And as you guys know as well as anyone, Exeter's consistently been one of the top programs in Division I over the past 2 decades. And I think this is one of the better Exeter teams in at least the last 10. They've scored at least 28 points in every game this year, except a 13-6 win over Memorial, where Memorial had a very good chance to win that game in the final seconds. They had a 4th and goal from inside the 10, and they had Exeter on the ropes, and they very well could have easily won that game. But I think what Memorial showed in that game that they were, as you guys saw last week, that's a legit team. But Exeter has their stable of running backs led by Jack Kavanaugh, Daniel Batstone, a very good quarterback in Michael Karen, very good tight end in Graney, very good defense with the Dulac brothers, Sam and Charlie. Most of their games have been they've only allowed 12 points or less in every Division I game this year. The only team to score more than 12 against them was their out-of-state game last week at Portland, where Exeter won 35-25, but they've shut out Nashua North. They've shut out Timberlane. They've held Memorial to 1 touchdown. They've held Spalding to 1 touchdown, Portsmouth to 1 touchdown. So, yes, I would say this is one of Bill Ball's better seasons, and collectively Exeter one of their better seasons. And the game that you guys will see tomorrow night, I would not be surprised at all if that is a preview of either a Division I semifinal or quite possibly a Division I championship game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely 2 of the heavyweights colliding tomorrow here
for sure
on Friday Night Lights, New Hampshire. Kickoff slated for 7 o'clock. You mentioned Memorial, and of course, Bill Ball coming up here. We'll hear from the Exeter head coach in about 10 minutes. But you mentioned Memorial, Jay. We saw you in the Queen City over the weekend. You had a front row seat to that 30-point victory for the Crusaders. And I think Steve's in agreement here as well. This seems like a team that has the momentum at the right time going into the playoffs, seemingly getting better week in and week out. How good is Memorial, and how deep of a run do you think they can make in the upcoming Division I tournament?
Memorial ends the season at home tomorrow against Timberlane, so I would think that's a win. I think you would definitely put Memorial in the category of a team that most teams would not want to face. They have a very good dual threat quarterback, very strong up front, good powerful running back. So I think Memorial. This is not the Memorial consistently building that program over the last 5 years, and Memorial's not a team that many teams would want to face right now in the first round of the Division I tournament next week, whoever they get.
Some of the other teams in the division, Winnicott, we touched on them a bit, but you're familiar, obviously, with your son in the program. They were banged up a bit going into that Saturday game. 7 players did not suit up, but
hey, Nick, I think he might be frozen.
Jay, you there? Okay, we'll try to
I think he may be frozen. Yep.
We'll try to reconnect with Jay as soon as we can. But, Steve, as you heard, it seems like he's very high on both Exeter and Memorial, and for good reason.
Yeah, I think Jay's right on. He spends a lot of time looking at East, of which Memorial, clearly is there, Nick. It's an interesting mix putting Memorial East, but the way the structure with the 3 divisions, I think it helps now strengthen up the East. And clearly that for Exeter, I'm sure Coach Ball was thrilled to have Manchester in their division this year and able to get a very competitive game to sharpen the tools on his team. And I think that when you look at that game, Jay's exactly right. That thing went right down the 30-yard line, and then going to go in and score, and or not going to go in and score, but they were moving down the field. They were in very good position. As Joe, I think we got him back. Jay was So go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
Well, Steve, I'll turn it over to you now that we've got Jay back. Okay. Jay, you can hear us, right?
Yes, correct. Yes.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, Steve, go ahead.
Jay, thank you, Nick. Jay, I appreciate you coming on. And, we've talked off and on throughout the year a couple times there. And I was just telling Nick when you were off the air, you've got your ears obviously to all of Division I, but and obviously some Division II teams over near the seacoast. But Division I, you've really had your ears and eyes close to the ground, so to speak. I'd like to take a little different slant. I want to take nothing away from the quality and the talent of the players on this Exeter team this year. But there is another element into it, and that is Coach Ball is able to go, as he said, have lunch with his wife or morning, and then go walking on the beach and really contemplating, getting himself in a position psychologically and emotionally, ready. He looks terrific right now. Has a lot of, you can just see in him, he's really feeling it. And he doesn't have any distractions anymore of a tremendous load on his plate. What are your thoughts if I were to ask you how much of that is part of this, where he can really work effectively with his coaching staff, more actively involved, developing a game plan, whether it be scouting or not? But how much is the Bill Ball factor as far as not having distractions and being able to really manage the team full time as far as developing his players?
I agree with that 100%. And actually, I asked Coach Ball that at the beginning of the season. I said, I feel bad for your kids because now they have 100% of you, and you're going to be even more focused and more driven, that you don't have the responsibilities of your athletic director job. And he said, yeah, he can devote all his time to practice, to game plans, meeting with players, meeting with coaches. Yeah, I think that's a very valid point of Bill. If Bill Ball could, I don't know if Coach could be more focused than he has before, but not having because everyone on the show knows that Coach Ball 100% every game, every year has his team ready to play. So
absolutely,
if you can be more ready, I think this is the year, because he doesn't have to worry about the boys soccer team, girls soccer team, field hockey, buses. However, the one thing he did tell me that he misses about being the AD is the random bump-ins with his players during the day, where they come to his office and just say hello, and just the random interactions with his players on a day-to-day basis, where when he gets to the school at 1 o'clock, 1:30, 2 o'clock every day, that's the first time he's seeing them, where before he could have a random, hey, how are you during the morning or whatever. So I do agree that Coach Ball is even more focused this year, and I definitely think that has something to do with the success that they've had on both sides of the ball and all three phases of their game. And their kicker, Jonathan Adams, I believe his name is. I've only seen Exeter one time this year because Brandon Brown has done all the other Exeter games. They have a very good weapon in Jonathan Adams because he consistently gets his kickoffs into the end zone where teams don't have the opportunity to run it back. So most teams are starting at the 20 rather than a high school kickoff getting to the 10, 15-yard line, then being run to like the 30, 35. That extra 10, 15 yards of field position really benefits the Exeter defense and forces teams to travel the entire field rather than if they're kicking off and returning, they have a much less of a field to drive to score. So I think that's a big weapon that Exeter will have in the playoffs.
Well, I've always said, Jay, I was an offensive coordinator, head coach before, and I can tell you when I'm pinned down the 20 or inside, it also narrows my playbook because the risk tolerance has got to go down. And what that does is put you in a position where you really don't feel comfortable opening up the playbook if you're playing the field position game, which everybody should be. Till I get out around the 40-yard line. So that's a huge gift. One of the things I'll just say briefly before I ask you the second question is the kicking across the league. Nick and I have noticed the kickoffs have been fantastic this year. A lot of good kickers, a lot of strategy going into New Hampshire special teams. This is really exciting. That just shows the elevation of the game. Question. I know you're our guru of the East. I want to ask you a question on Winnicott. We talked about Manchester Memorial. We talked about Exeter, but how about Winnicott? I know they got beat, squarely the other day, but this team is sitting right now at 4-3, Jay, and they have an opportunity if they can beat Dover to go 5-3 for the season. This team is young. They've got a big roster, but they've got a bunch of players at the underclass level getting a bunch of starting time. How do you assess Coach Francois' Warriors this year and as they look forward?
Well, he's not playing his third tight end too much, but that's another story for another day.
But I ain't anyway, that one.
but yes, they are young. I hear that Coach Francois was kind of expecting where he expected this year to be better than last year, next year to be better than this year, and then in year 2026, when this sophomore class that went undefeated last year as freshmen are seniors, I think that could be the team that really puts Winnicott back in the upper echelon of Division I. And then you mentioned earlier that that Winnicott's played some freshmen. You saw the varsity debut last week of a kid named Josh Moore who played defensive line. He's like 6'5", 300 pounds as a freshman, and he held his own last week against Memorial. And I think that was his first time getting varsity snaps this year. And I think he'll continue to get better as they're playing a lot of sophomores on defense. They have a lot of sophomores on offense. So I think Ryan is happy with the way this season is going. I think they have a very good chance to get a win tomorrow night at Dover. Dover comes in still mathematically alive in the playoffs. They need to win and they need to get some help. But they're gonna be facing a team. Winnicott's going to be facing a team that's playing for its lives. So that's going to be a good game. That's going to be a good game tomorrow. But but to answer your question, I think Winnicott has had a year like they expected, and they wanted to get back into the tournament because that's where they feel they should belong every year. So get back in the tournament, and once you're in the tournament, anything can happen. So I think
before we run out of time, I have another quick question I really want your opinion on. one of the things that Nick and I have seen, we've talked about during the games, I don't ever recall a year where I saw so many personal fouls after and before the whistle as I've seen this year. Almost a multiply. I don't know about what you've seen in the games, but the games we've seen right across the board have been off the charts with the amount that we've seen. In your opinion, is that strictly just players losing composure, or are the officials calling these things tighter and quicker, in your opinion, if you've seen that like we have?
That's funny because I have not seen any major difference in the amount of penalties being called this year prior to other years. There's obviously there's going to be the penalties every game. There's going to be a couple personal fouls, unsportsmanlike conducts every game, but there's been nothing like it hasn't gone to the one edge where it's noticeably different that I've seen in the games that I've seen this year.
Well, I'll tell you this. One of the things that we've seen, it isn't just the amount of them. It's the times that they happen and the impact that are taken away, first downs in critical times, losing composure when you're behind by a touchdown, you're coming down, and we've seen a lot of those. So I don't really know if it's the officials tightening down, which is certainly, we see it every year, different areas where they tighten down. But I believe that if some of the teams that we've seen can correct those, without mentioning names, if they can correct those going into the playoffs, they're going to be even better than the seasons that are had, which are good. So that discipline is going to be really key for some of the teams that Nick and I have seen. I don't know what Nick thinks, but that certainly have seen that so far this year, Jay. Thank you I'll send it back to Nick, but thanks. Always good to talk to you.
Thank you. Always. Thank you.
Excuse me. Jay, where are you going to be tomorrow, and where can folks follow your work?
I will be at Winnicott at Dover. Seacoast Media Group has allowed me the fortunate to basically see my son every week and to cover Winnicott. So that's been good. I've not missed one of their games this year. So I'll be at Winnicott at Dover. Brandon Brown will be with you guys at the Londonderry Exeter game, and
tell him to come see us.
And then Spalding's playing at Portsmouth. And then I think that's the only other Seacoast game we have going on tomorrow night. So busy time, and busy time for all sports. So that's it's going to be a very busy, fun weekend.
Any prediction tomorrow night, Jay? How about a prediction for tomorrow night?
We had Exeter beating Londonderry. Brandon picked that game. He had Exeter picking Londonderry in a close game. If I remember correctly, I think he said 21-17. And then I had Winnicott beating Dover in a low-scoring, close game. I think I had them 12-10 tomorrow.
12-10. All right.
Yeah, low-scoring game in Dover, which probably won't be because I've heard Dover, they pass the ball a lot. So we'll see if Winnicott
Coach Coomba likes offense. No question.
Yes, he does. Yeah. Yes.
Jay, we appreciate it as usual. Thanks for coming on, and we'll talk again soon.
All right, sounds good.
Jay.
Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
You guys do a phenomenal job.
Thank you. Jay Pineno, Seacoast Media Group. Good stuff there as usual. Londonderry and Exeter, our game of the week. Both head coaches are coming up. Bill Ball on the other side of the break, Jimmy Lozon in about 15 minutes. You are watching FNL Gridiron here on Friday Night Lights, New Hampshire. We're presented by Beals Insurance.
Our broadcast today, as it always is brought to you by Beals Insurance Agency, with locations now in both Bedford and Londonderry. Whether you need home, auto, or business insurance, Beals Insurance will get you both the price and quality coverage that's right for you. Just call 603-471-9999 or visit BealsInsurance.com to request a free quote and start saving money today. Again, that's BealsInsurance.com. The New Hampshire Tomahawks promote the highest level of club lacrosse competition, not just in the state, but in the country. Looking to get recruited? Director Chris Cameron keeps an open dialogue with the nation's top college lacrosse coaches. Over 400 New Hampshire Tomahawks alumni have played at the college level, including the ACC, Big East, Big Ten, Ivy, NESCAC, NE10, and more. New Hampshire Tomahawks coaching staff has over 100 coaches, including current high school, varsity, and college coaches. The Tomahawks offer training for players of all ages, clinics, camps, and leagues, along with spring, summer, summer and fall elite teams. So play with the best. The New Hampshire Tomahawks, showcase and development for college lacrosse. Visit NewHampshireTomahawks.com and girls.nhtomahawks.com. How can you reach your team's fundraising goals at no risk and no cost? MG Sports offers a variety of products to make your team's fundraiser a success. Their products include discount tickets, cards, and calendar raffles to hundreds of local merchants throughout the New England area. Don't waste another season. Raise more funds than ever before and become another football program in New Hampshire that sets fundraising records every season. MG Sports, fundraising made easy. Visit mgsportsfundraising.com to start raising money for your team today. Colonial Printing is family owned and celebrating 50 years of quality print services for New Hampshire businesses and can help yours as well. Whether it's creative design, digital or offset printing, or banners and signs. With state-of-the-art technology, unlimited industry sources, and the ability to think outside the box, Colonial Printing will help you get your job done. To see their full list of services, promo products, and portfolio, or to request an estimate, visit colonialprintingnh.com. That's colonialprintingnh.com.
Happy Halloween, folks. Nick and Ask this Steve Deals with you from FNL Gridiron. Just had some trick-or-treaters there during the break, Steve, so good to see that custom alive and well. Oh, yeah. Reminder, we're back on here same time, same channel next week, 6 o'clock, as we will really break down the playoff bracket next week. But a lot on the line in the final weekend. As Steve mentioned earlier, no Saturday games in the final weekend of the regular season. So we've got one game of the week, one true game of the week coming tomorrow night. That's, of course, a 7 o'clock kick in Exeter as the Blue Hawks host Londonderry, two of the premier programs in all of New Hampshire football squaring
Absolutely.
on. Jimmy Lozon, Londonderry head coach, coming up at about 6:45. And right now, Bill Ball, head coach of Exeter, returns to the program here. Coach, good evening, sir. How are you? Thanks for coming on.
Guys, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. It's a great time of year, hitting November tomorrow,
boy.
so it's a fun time.
Coach, where are you right now? Are you at the field?
I am. I just got out of practice. I'm standing watching the Newfoundland Berlin. I'm playing lacrosse here field hockey here in about 20 minutes.
Just can't stay away, huh, Coach?
Nope.
Can't stay away. Coach, your team, 8-0, an impressive 8-0 so far. We broke down the stats a little bit earlier with Jay Pineno from the Seacoast Media Group, talking about the offense and the defense and how impressive those team statistics have been. And he said that this may be one of your more talented teams of the last decade. Is that true? How good is this group compared to other teams that you've had come through?
Yeah, it's a good group. I think I don't really compare them. We've had a pretty good decade and pretty good run at it the last 3 decades. So I don't like to compare, but it's certainly has paid their dues and they've paid attention to detail. They're started working out, and last around Thanksgiving, and they get themselves in a position they want to be in. Like I told them throughout the week, this is why you work out in the off season. They're playing games like this tomorrow night.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd imagine everybody's buzzing, Coach. You throw in the fact that it's senior night as well. This is one of the more accomplished classes that you've had come through, and a lot of eyeballs are going to be on that game tomorrow night. Do the kids, do they relish this kind of an opportunity here, as you just said, playing meaningful football in November? Does that translate into direct excitement on the players' half? Is there some nerves, some trepidation? How do you take the temperature of the locker room, so to speak, on the eve of a big game like this?
I always take it and I measure it and calibrate it how they prepare. And, we came in Saturday morning after a good win versus a good Portland team, and we put that to bed right away. And we started on Londonderry, and it was business. And this week of practice has been attention to detail. We know we're going against an outstanding program, and we're going to have to play our best. We're going to have to tomorrow night.
I'll let Steve handle the X's and O's part, but I do want to ask you this before I hand it over. What areas have you seen the most improvement in terms of these groups, whether it be offense, defense, special teams, individual areas of the game that you have had your eye on where you've seen really marked improvement between now and the season opener?
Yeah, I would say our offensive line has matured and come along, and they've done a really good job. We've seen that, with the guys that get along, the whole team gets along, which helps everything. And they communicate well. They know they're going to see multiple fronts and different blitzes, and people are going to stem and move on them, and they, 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 they communicate well. They get their assignments down, and they play to the second whistle. So that's always a good thing with an offense.
Steve?
Yeah, Coach just stole my thunder right there. Well, but I'm going to say it anyway. Coach, first of all, before I get going here, congratulations so far on an incredible season. I know it's far from over, but so far to date, just a terrific job. I watch you guys every single game. I think I watched the Memorial game twice from start to finish. Very, very exciting. But first of all, before I get started, how are the walks on the beach going? Are those walks on the beach about football, or are they strictly for just peace and quiet and
It, well, I'll be honest with you. There's a lot of football in those walks on the beach. There was this morning down in North Beach around 8:30. I'll tell you, and
yeah.
there's a lot of different phone calls being made about football during those walks to the beach. That's which I think aggravate my wife when she joins me. But that's that's a time for reflection of football for sure.
Well, that's great that you can do that. We were talking about that with Jay earlier, Coach. Hey, one of the things as you were talking about earlier, you've always had good offensive lines. If you don't, it's very difficult to run an offense like that if you don't have good guys up front. The condition that I see of these athletes this year, always good, Coach. But to me, when I look at the condition, I look at the leg drive, and I look at the strength in the upper body. Once they drive to the line, and then as you aptly said, these guys block right to the whistle every single time. From even your second guys that are coming in for some relief. What do you attribute that to this year? Obviously, a lot of credit goes to the kids, but what's the overall, attribute do you think that's going into this season with these guys that makes it do it? It's been a long time since I've seen an offensive line work as a unit like these guys.
Yeah, I mean, the kids do a great job in the off season, and Skip Suzinski has been with me for 32 years, the offensive line coach, and he works alongside with Steve Shepard and Joe Quinn and Justin York and a host of others. He's got a crew there, about five guys that run our offensive line, and Skip heads it up, and they do a terrific job. They really cover the bases well, and the kids respond to them extremely well.
Let's talk about, again, you've got a great group of backs. Obviously, I want to talk, if we can, about Ian Batstone. I watched him, and now I've seen three of you guys' games that I was able to and I hear the new, it's no different in the games that I didn't see from what I've heard. This guy seems to have a plant step and anticipate blocking before it even develops. He seems to know ahead of time where the seam's going to be, and he drives it, and almost like he just welcomes the hit. What can you say about this guy? I know it's kind of a cliche question, but what is it about this guy that you see, Coach? You've been coaching, obviously have a much better mind than I do as far as running backs. What are the special features of this guy's that you see that makes him so good?
Well, he stays in tremendous shape. He's got himself in top-notch shape. He always has. He loves football. The thing about him is that his yards after contact are impressive. He, like you say, he's got a little bit of that second level jump cut instinct in him that served him well. The thing that I like about him too is he blocks for his other guys as much as they block for him.
Absolutely.
Very unselfish, and he plays inside linebacker, and he's a guy that we depend to do a lot of different things with him as far as playing the run in pass situations and also sometimes in contained situations where he has to come from the second level.
All right, you've got a great resume to work through, not resume, great experience now that you can look at your team, how they play, where they're at. No one can argue that Exeter's, even with your record, the progression for Exeter High School has been tremendous this year because they're better. I think you're playing your best football at this point. Portland is no slouch. What is it about this Londonderry team? Obviously, you guys, I'm sure you and Coach Lozon have a lot of respect for each other and what you guys do and how you approach the game. What is it you're going to have to accomplish with Londonderry, bar none? That you've got to, standing out. You've got to. Which battles do you have to win?
Well, Jimmy does a great job with that program,
Yep.
and there's no question. Offensively, Ogden is a threat every time, and he touches the ball in every play unless Villa's in there in kind of a wildcat situation. But
Yep.
he's a threat every time he's a run pass threat every time he touches the ball. Cruz is a tough downhill runner, and they give you enough. They give you a little bit of everything. They can run power at you. At times it's almost like single wing, then it's spread, a lot of speed sweep, a lot of counter tray. They do a lot of different things. They screen well. They throw the fade ball well. So defensively, you really can't say, okay, we have to stop this. But defensively, we have to be solid, and we have to play team defense. And on defense, we're going to keep the ball in front of us, and we're going to run to the ball and get our reads and get around the football. There's no other way. You can't just go say, okay, we're gonna stop this because they'll get you. They're multifaceted. They spread it around. They get, like I said, the Austin's a threat, and then they get Villa there, and then defensively, their front seven. They come back. They got I think Brindner, the big tackle, 76, and Kucha 70, and Freitas a tackle, and the big defensive end Villa 7. He's there, so they return a lot of guys in their front seven. And their linebackers, I know the Waldron kid, 59, he's
Yeah.
back. He's a tough.
Yeah.
He's tough. So they've got guys with experience. To me, we have to be sound defensively, opportunistic offensively, and we can't lose the special teams. We cannot lose. We can't afford, um, you know, errors in the special team area. Just can't afford that.
I think time of possession tomorrow night. I would say especially for Exeter, but I still believe time of possession for both teams. I think if one team can win that battle decisively, over 50, 58, 62%, if they can win that time of possession, I think it puts the team that does that into a real advantage. What are your thoughts there, Coach?
Yeah, there's no question that would be really advantageous for either team to be able to keep the other team off the field. Especially, I think with they tend to, big play capabilities. Watch a ton of tape on them, and certainly watch them in person. Um, they've got guys that that if you miss, you're going to pay. So you have to be solid. You have to get your run fits down, and you're going to make sure you keep the ball in front of you defensively in the secondary.
Well, Coach, I'm excited to see Coach Ball on the loose as far as the time thing, where you're able to really. I've said this so many times, able to focus in a way without distraction. I run a business. I can tell you when distractions come in, even the best coaches, it affects their performance. And you're in that position. I think it has a lot to do with the extra success that you're having this year. And it's just the guys are managing games. Your assistants are just managing games extremely well. I watch it. The guys are buying in. So thank you. And I'm going to tell Coach Lozon the same thing. Thank you for giving us these type of games to cover because I think Nick and I love football. And when we go into the press box and we know this game's coming on, I get so excited I can barely stand it. So thanks very much for putting together a great program. All the guys there and. Just think what November is going to be with the way the things are stacking up right now. Any thoughts on that before we close?
No, it's exciting. It's exciting, and we're really excited to be a part of it, and hope to put our best foot forward tomorrow night. And I want to thank you for high school football. You guys do a great job, and I appreciate it.
Thank you,
Well,
Coach. We appreciate that.
I hope you guys, hope
Thanks,
people
guys.
have a big dinner afterwards, enjoy the game on film after they watch it live. So we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Coach Ball, congratulations so far on a great year.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Coach Bill Ball, long time Exeter head football coach. In fact, he's been involved with that program in some shape, form, or fashion since 1978. 7 rings, 2 in Division I, back-to-back in 2011 and 2012. And again, Exeter with a lot to play for tomorrow. They hope to stay unbeaten in the regular season finale against Londonderry that could open the door to a top seed in the Division I tournament. Standing in his way, of course, is Jimmy Lozon of Londonderry, and he joins us next. You are watching FNL Gridiron, presented by Beals Insurance.
Our broadcast today, as it always is brought to you by Beals Insurance Agency, with locations now in both Bedford and Londonderry. Whether you need home, auto, or business insurance, Beals Insurance will get you both the price and quality coverage that's right for you. Just call 603-471-9999 or visit BealsInsurance.com to request a free quote and start saving money today. Again, that's BealsInsurance.com. The New Hampshire Tomahawks promote the highest level of club lacrosse competition, not just in the state, but in the country. Looking to get recruited? Director Chris Cameron keeps an open dialogue with the nation's top college lacrosse coaches. Over 400 New Hampshire Tomahawks alumni have played at the college level, including the ACC, Big East, Big Ten, Ivy, NESCAC, NE10, and more. The New Hampshire Tomahawks coaching staff has over 100 coaches, including current high school, varsity, and college coaches. The Tomahawks offer training for players of all ages, clinics, camps, and leagues, along with spring, summer, and fall elite teams. So play with the best. The New Hampshire Tomahawks, showcase and development for college lacrosse. Visit NewHampshireTomahawks.com and girls.nhtomahawks.com. How can you reach your team's fundraising goals at no risk and no cost? MG Sports offers a variety of products to make your team's fundraiser a success. Their products include discount tickets, cards, and calendar raffles to hundreds of local merchants throughout the New England area. Don't waste another season. Raise more funds than ever before and become another football program in New Hampshire that sets fundraising records every season. MG Sports, fundraising made easy. Visit mgsportsfundraising.com to start raising money for your team today. Colonial Printing is family owned and celebrating 50 years of quality print services for New Hampshire businesses and can help yours as well. Whether it's creative design, digital or offset printing, or banners and signs, with state-of-the-art technology, unlimited industry sources, and the ability to think outside the box, Colonial Printing will help you get your job done. To see their full list of services, promo products, and portfolio, or to request an estimate, visit colonialprintingnh.com. That's colonialprintingnh.com.
Back here on FNL Gridiron, presented by Beals Insurance. Steve, the trick-or-treaters have cleaned out my bowl now twice in 45
You
minutes.
sure that's
So
not you? That's not you. Sure you're not eating it, are you?
Not. I was planning to eat the leftovers.
I don't see any chocolate on your hands, so you're good.
No. Well,
So
we'll see. I just refilled it a third time, so I'm hoping that that will last. But
what are you giving away
I have
tonight?
my doubts. I got quite a variety. We got Snickers, we got Butterfinger, we have Reese's Pieces, we have Smarties, which is basically pure sugar, and one other. Peanut M&Ms as well. So there's a decent variety.
Hey, you know what you ought to do, Nick? You ought to take
What's
5
that?
or 6 of those King books and go out on the steps and just read to these folks some stories and give them some candy while they sit there and listen.
I don't know if those are age appropriate for 6-year-olds, but maybe.
Well, you just have.
All right, that's
a good point.
Let's bring in Jimmy Lozon and get his thoughts on one of my favorite holidays here, Halloween. Coach, how are you here on Halloween?
I'm good. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Is Sean, is he still old or young enough to trick or treat at this point, or is he outgrown it?
He's out with his brothers right now. They did the whole Aladdin theme, so we got Aladdin and Abu and the genie and etc. So the whole crew's out.
Beautiful. All right, Coach, let's get down to business here. Week number 9, the finale, a lot on the line, potentially a bye for your club, a win, and you get the week off, a loss. It gets very messy. What is your message to this group as they head for that big road matchup against Exeter tomorrow night?
The message is, we're going to see a really well-prepared, talented team this year, and I think we're going to get their best punch, and I expect it to be, a really tough matchup, and just looking forward to it. Hopefully our guys are focused and, know the game plan, can execute the game plan, and yeah, I mean that's a strength of Exeter's is that they do what they do and they're really really good at it, and you know we try to be the same way, but we give it to you in different deliveries, and so it's similar philosophies. You wouldn't know it watching the two teams play, but we probably do have a lot more of Exeter to us than people think, and it should be a great matchup.
How about the health collectively of your team, Coach? What can you tell us about some of the key players tomorrow, whether or not they'll be available or what the situation is from a health perspective?
Yeah, I mean, like everybody else in November, it's you're lucky or fortunate to be healthy. Those that are playing are probably not at 100%. We're fortunate to have a big program, and we can throw many bodies onto the field to replace guys. But when you're talking about quality bodies and still being a contender, those guys are hard to come by. So we do have plenty of able bodies that I think will are good players and still get a chance to compete at a high level. So and we're fortunate, but we'll be without a few guys. And no excuses. We got other guys who are looking for their opportunity, and they're going to get one tomorrow. Go out there, and the standard doesn't change.
Coach, how big is the bye, in your opinion? Is that week off crucial to success in a tournament, or is that sometimes perhaps overhyped a bit and it's not as big of a deal to play in the preliminary round? Which side of the spectrum do you fall on?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly I think it's a year to year basis. Some groups are good with that bye. Some groups would not do well with it. 2 years ago, we had a bye. We thought it was the greatest thing in the world, and then we came out. We played extremely flat and did not play well 2 weeks later. And then last year we didn't have a bye, but we were playing our best football, and it was like we wanted to just keep playing. Played Wyndham in the first round last year, and it was way better than a bye. We came out. We were fired up. We played great football and carried on to the next week. I think it'd probably be good in a lot of ways for us to get some guys acclimated to some different positions and be able to just kind of continuously drill the fundamentals and things like that, because I think that's something we're big on that I think we learned from 2 years ago. 2 years ago we spent that first week doing some different things, and I think if we had the opportunity again this time around, I think we would really just keep hammering home the fundamentals and working on those techniques. And whoever we get the next week, we just go in there and we game plan. But we're going to be 1 week better at what we want to do. So lessons learned. I think I'd do a better job with the bye this time around. But we're fine either way. We just want to play football. And tomorrow, if we come out on top, we'll enjoy that bye. If not, we'll get right back to work.
Steve?
And as always, appreciate you coming in and joining us. One of the things I want to start with was your team. I've obviously studied Londonderry pretty much every single game, and one of the things that I noticed there seemed to be a tendency is you seem to hang around with the team in the first half, and then all of a sudden there's been a lot of explosions in the second half. As Nick and I obviously we've covered the games, not all the games, but I've seen that with some of those teams that are in that 5 to 13 category, as far as the standings are concerned. And then, but what is it? Is it adjustments that come in the second half? Is it just guys just elevate their game to a new level? I mean, these are not bad teams we're talking about, but they just kind of really finish that third and fourth quarter very strong. Do you see that? And what are the ingredients that go into that, you think?
Yeah, I mean, I could think of many second halves that we maybe didn't play well. This year, we've definitely done a good job in the second half, and
Yeah.
but that's a credit to coaching, the assistant coaches, and the adjustments. Gives us an opportunity to kind of sit and just talk to our players, and we do a lot of film and a lot of just kind of explaining the details, and I think a lot of our guys, we can make quick adjustments, and so credit to the coaches on that, and then just finding one or two things, getting and then going back out in the second half, and then getting back to obviously what worked in the first half. It's just a great opportunity to reset. But I think we try to pride ourselves on being a good second half team. I think it's a side of coaching. Now I don't want to jinx it because I've been out coached many times in the second half, but
Yeah.
I think if our coaches are doing their job, that's not just a rest period. We're getting in there, we're making some adjustments. Whether it's a personnel switch or a scheme switch, and there's slight adjustments, and I've learned those from guys like Billy Ball and Brian O'Reilly. I mean, we're talking minor details that nobody would notice in the bleachers, and all of a sudden, you're changing this type of block to an out block to influence a guy to change a thing, and you can kind of see what the other team's game plan is. There's a lot of times teams will come out and they'll treat us totally different in the first half than we anticipated, and then we're able to get in there in halftime and kind of make those adjustments. So it's just years of experience, and then the continuity between myself and our offensive line coach, our defensive coordinator. We've been through a lot of games together, although many of the staffs we play against have as well. But it's definitely served us well being together for as long as we have.
One of the things you have is a front seven on defense that are just that are a really special group of guys. To have bookends like that, to be able to contain and control the edge, has been something I've noticed. A team, when you guys are on, that system is working. And then you've got Devin Bowles and his brothers there in the on the interior linebacker group, Sam, Mike, and Will, that are just really big, really strong guys. Very difficult to move, very difficult to master or to alpha in any way, shape, or form. So this is a team. When you look at the running of Exeter in the pass, instead of averaging 3 or 4 yards a carry, they're averaging 6, 7, 8, 9 yards a carry. It isn't just Bat Stone that's able to get yards after the catch, as Coach Ball said earlier this evening. But you've got a front, a front three. Arguably, it's kind of like a off. It's really, you kind of have 3 down, and then you're playing the bookend stuff, and then you're coming up and hitting. What can you say about read and react? What is the strategy that you've got to do to stop those kind of average yards per carry? Because that's just how they control the football and just own the clock with teams that I've seen. That's got to be a big part of your defensive scheme, I presume.
Yeah, no, they're, I think they primarily want to run off tackle. That's just always been the Exeter style. Although this year they've hit trap as well as I've ever seen them. They look like a phenomenal trap team, and you got to protect the edges. You can't, you've got to suffocate the middle and try to pop everything out. You got to be great tacklers on the outside, and you can't get greedy. You got to keep your eyes in the right places. All of a sudden, the quarterback's got the ball, or the tight end's down blocking, he slips out, and so you got to be patient with good eye discipline, and you really just got to squeeze everything, and it's tough. They've got answers to everything you throw at them. So
a good line. I like that. Yeah.
They've and I remember being back in 2015 going against Coach Ball for the first time, and I was in way over my head, and I was like, I'm just going to give him a different front every play constantly, and it kept us in the game until he figured it out and found an answer and whatnot, and so you kind of got to find a fine balance between mixing things up, but not losing track of your fundamentals and what you're really good at and the best personnel. So, but if you live in the same thing all game long, it's only a matter of time. So we try to live in a little bit in both worlds, but we've got to be great technique wise and fundamentally. Because they are, and they fire off the ball. And as you said, they've got multiple backs this year. I think last year that was kind of what was missing was, they didn't have, that back that was going to break those tough tackles. And, and then they didn't have a quarterback at a certain point. that was going to be able to do some different things. So they've got the full package. It's a really good Exeter team. And we all know when Exeter's really good, they're tough to stop, and they usually are playing deep into November.
Where are the things on the Lancers, coach, that you just feel, we talked about a tough matchup against Exeter. What is an area where you feel, not necessarily against Exeter, but where's a strength that you feel that you may you may have? Obviously, you have to be, you've got a game plan. I realize that, but within that context, what you can talk about, where's an area where you could really talk about your guys offensively that you think you might have some good matchups?
We've they do a great job keeping a kind of cover on the back end and not letting you get the big one, and then make you earn it, rally to the football, make their tackles. Eventually a team's going to turn it over. Eventually someone's going to try to take a shot. That's our style, though. Like we try to pound the ball, crease you, and take our shots when we get the opportunity. We'll be smart with that, and we understand what they're trying to do and accomplish on defense. And if we fall into that trap and we get too greedy or we turn the ball over, it'll be a long night. So hopefully we'll take care of the football. Offensively, though, for us, Mason Paquette has had a phenomenal year. Number 11 wide receiver. It's been a tough matchup for everybody that's covered him. And then I think we have a really solid backfield.
You do.
And just everybody has had a piece to the puzzle for us on offense. We've got a really good slot receiver in Caden Malik, and he's dynamic. Tight ends that have stepped up in place of Devin Bowles, and then we've got Sam and Alex have been great, and we got 3 good running backs. So it's like we got 5 runners, and Ethan Wheeler, opposite of Mason Paquette, has done a great job. So we've got plenty of pieces to work with and plenty of guys that can touch the ball and hopefully help us create mismatches and do some things. So we'll see. We'll see who wants to have a big night tomorrow night, though.
I think tomorrow night I'm going to make a little prediction. You'll probably laugh at me, but I think that you're going to see a situation where there'll be times where both teams will be frustrated with the defenses of the opposition, in the sense that they're so used to run. You guys are so used to both teams successfully running the football. I predict there may be times it gets a little frustrating because of the quality of the defenses of both teams. And I think the 2 tight ends on each side are going to, with the radiuses they have and the size advantage they have over the secondaries, I think could wind up being a huge part of the game. So I'll just make that prediction. And this could be a big grainy Bulls matchup. Or via matchup if he's playing out there as well in the flats, whatever. But both of those guys are just really, really potentially hard guys to cover. And I predict whoever succeeds best in that area is going to certainly have a factor in the game. So we'll see what happens. But give you a little. Yeah, this is a great matchup with both of these teams, Coach, because the assets that both of you guys have in areas are very comprehensive. You guys have both teams have depth. And the attitude that both teams seem to get along very well with their teammates. It seems to be a next guy up, foxhole type mentality with these teams. So as I told Dick, I'm as excited for this game at the end of the year as I am for any game. It was kind of the same feeling watching with Pinkerton going into Bedford. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if it runs down on the same time frame in the game to decide a winner. So as I told Coach Ball, thank you, Coach, and all your assistant coaches, which I know many of them. For putting together teams that we can go in and cover, and I'm as excited for this game. I just think it's a benchmark. I think the Bedford Pinkerton game is a benchmark. No one could argue that there's a very good possibility these teams don't jump the gun, but could be semifinalists. You can certainly see that happening, but there's so many other good teams down below too. There's some spoilers out there in Sale, Alverin, and Wyndham, and Memorial. Wow, it's going to be a fun ride. So.
There'll be some upsets this year. So.
You think so?
I agree.
I would agree with you. Yeah, and as the weather gets cold,
wide open.
Yeah, weather's going to get cold and nasty, and that's when real football players step up. So, but Coach, as I told Coach Ball, best of luck, and thanks for both of you guys coaching these kids. You just make it a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for having us. Absolutely.
All right,
Coach. Good luck tomorrow night. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Can't wait.
Absolutely. We'll see
Can't
you
wait.
Jimmy Lozon, long time head coach at this point with Londonderry. Of course, at one point, he was the youngest head coach in the country when he took over for his alum, Manchester West, at age 21. He's now 10 years into the job at Londonderry, and I believe year number 3, maybe number 2, but somewhere in that area, as athletic director with the Lancers as well.
Yeah.
So again, big game tomorrow night between Exeter and Londonderry. The winner gets a bye, and the loser, well, we're going to have to wait and see where they end up with the seeds.
Yep. Like you say,
Steve,
Nick,
your
it could be
final
best.
thoughts.
Yeah.
If Londonderry loses, especially, it becomes a mess, and we may see a 3-way tie in Division I Central. So bottom line is, for both those teams, they want to come away with a win and simplify things on their end. Steve, your final thoughts here on our Halloween edition of FNL Gridiron.
It's real simple for me, Nick. My final thoughts in this game. The players have shown who they are, what they are all year long, and this is a great group of about 125, 140 guys that are going to be going at it. But, this is a time where it's going to be, I'm really excited to see the senior leadership step up on both sides of the field. But most of all, what I get excited about, or I shouldn't say most of all, tomorrow night in specific, to watch these two coaches manage a game. They're amazing at what they do. They have a sense. They both have a really sincere feeling for what's going on during the game. They call timeouts at always the right time. They make great adjustments with the coaching staffs assistant coaches they have. But both of these guys, with all the benefits and knowledge they have about football, they're also executives in the sense that they have that executive leadership strength. That really knows how to move players emotionally through a football team. And aside from all the X's and O's, they're great leaders and builders of men. And that's the part of this game that I want to watch these go at it with two Titans. One guy coming up, not hardly coming up, but I mean, Jimmy's just been doing it for a long time, but he's a very young coach, even still, with a tremendous amount of knowledge and experience. And I'm really excited to see Coach Ball really enjoy coaching without the distractions of what he had in so many other years and still did so well. I'm really excited to see him. You could even see in the interview, Nick, how rested, how ready, and how excited he is. There's no fatigue factor there at all. He's ready to go. And these guys have managed games as good as anybody. That's what I'm looking forward to watching. And I think it could have a factor in the game. Who doesn't blink? Who does blink if it happens? And these guys, it's hard to imagine either one of them would. But yeah, that's just a dimension of the game I can't wait to watch.
Two of the best head coaches, period, in this state, going at each other tomorrow night. And again, we're on the air at 6:45 ahead of that 7 o'clock kickoff in our Friday Night Lights New Hampshire Game of the Week, presented by Beals Insurance. Londonderry at Exeter, week number 9, closing down the regular season. I want to thank our guests tonight, Jay Pineno of the Seacoast Media Group, Bill Ball, the Exeter head coach, and Jimmy Lozon of Londonderry. I want to thank the sponsors as well, Beals Insurance, MG Sports Fundraising, the New Hampshire Tomahawks, and Colonial Printing. For the man behind the curtain, the wizard of replay, our director, Ben Beals, and my partner, Steve Beals. My name is Nick Anastas, saying so long. We'll see you next week. This has been FNL Gridiron, presented by Beals Insurance.